Good evening, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politic. Pastor Toby, Chuck Knox, I'm the water boy. It's good to be with you this evening. Since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, Democrats have tripped a wire. I mean, like something's tripped.
Tripped a wire?
Yeah, you ever?
They've gone insane.
Gone insane.
But that's
a real,
not true.
that's a real
insane.
Texas phraseology. And are pissed that they can't force states to keep abortion mills open anymore. And so they're drudging out all the old arguments and the lies to make abortion great again.
And some new ones, too.
Make abortion great.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
There we go. The Senate Judiciary Committee met to discuss the legal fallout of Roe v. Wade this last week. And Biden...
Today, actually.
Get this. Was it today?
Today.
And Biden, that's how on it Cross Politic is. Knox is more on it than I am. But the Biden administration just signed an executive order to protect reproductive health care rights, supposedly last week, but you can't find it.
Oh, really?
He loves doing that, doesn't he?
He signs these executive orders, and then you can't find it.
You can't actually find it?
No. But get this.
He signed it in his heart.
The Human Health Services, can we even call that? Isn't that Rachel Levine's assistant health secretary?
Yeah.
Trainee Levine.
Dude in the dress.
Their wheels are grinding out new policies as we speak, referencing that the executive order
that he signed.
That he never signed.
He
never signed it.
You can't
doesn't
find
exist.
it.
Yeah. So we're going to walk through. So this shows we're going to walk through their arguments, and we're going to bring in our network's resident Fight Laugh Feast doctor.
Yeah.
Amen.
To keep us thinking straight about this moment. So Dr. Story, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, glad to be here.
So I don't think people realize exactly what is going on here, and I actually think because the administration is playing really subversive politics, like signing executive order, but not really, and still acting on it. But it seems to me that the Biden administration is merging hospitals with abortion clinics, and so let's get simple. Let's back up here. What's the difference between hospitals and abortion clinics, and has there historically been a disconnect between the two?
Traditionally, there's been a gaping hole between abortion providers and access to hospitals. It's actually been one of the ways legally that states have been going after abortion providers is by saying, do you have privileges at your local hospital? Meaning, if you're doing this surgical procedure with risk for your patient, do you have the ability to take care of them when it hits the wall, when it goes bad, when they bleed out? Do you have an ability to go take care of them in the place that needs the next level care in the hospital? And what's fascinating is in most places, the abortion provider has no privileges because they are not skilled at hospital care.
Oh,
because they have honestly not proven or gone through the levels to be able to achieve the ability to care for patients in the hospital. And even more so, because of a fair number of these abortion providers were never skilled surgeons. They were family docs who kind of found a niche. They were nurse practitioners that began doing measures. And those folks professionally just generally not have hospital options or hospital privileges. So for most places, hospital care and abortion mills are really not on the same side of town. They're not even on the same spectrum.
I was under the impression, like in cities like Chicago, you could get abortion on the 4th floor and have a birth on the 2nd floor. Are there some areas where hospitals have this major overlap?
There are some, and some of the more notorious big hospitals like Pittsburgh or the University of Washington in Seattle, just across the mountains, are places where advanced age abortions, so 3rd trimester children being taken from their mother. It's those abortions, the ones that are sadly more heinous, although all abortion is, are typically done at these academic centers.
Mm-hmm.
It's Dr. Story. One of the things that I'm hearing the tone that's starting to change now is that all of a sudden they are saying that women won't get the health care that they need in order to be able to be healthy. Like they won't get it. I'm sorry, go ahead. I see that you already talked.
No, that's a fascinating conversation because is abortion health care? It really begs the question when you say women's health or you use these really fuzzy, nice sound bites and people are like, oh, I can't get my health care. My privacy with my doctor is being invaded. But what we're talking about is the ending of a child's life in a woman's uterus. And we're saying that this is necessary for a woman to be able to go on and have health. And that's really, I mean, we need to keep the conversation coming back to what are we talking about? We're talking about real children, unique individuals that we're saying the mom needs to have this. So let's break that down. Is it necessary for women to have abortions? You know, there's several different Christian OBGYN organizations out there, and I'd encourage people to go look at them because they have strong stances on these, where they talk about that this is actually not, it's one of the biggest lies being told, that abortion is necessary for women's health. Because in most cases, care of a woman who has a challenging pregnancy, abortion turns out to be the easy answer, to put it in a euphemism, like, let's just take care of this, rather than a doctor working hard and saying, no, there's great options for getting you through this challenge with your pregnancy. Whether it's caring for a child that has special needs and we're recognizing it early, is the only answer really termination of that child, killing that child, rather than preparing the parents, caring well for them, and really talking about the humanity of this child, regardless of whether there's some challenges ahead. That's one of the big answers. The one that you, David Shannon, are bringing up today has to do about tubal pregnancies. Is that what you were kind of sharing with me a video earlier?
I actually saw a video. We'll talk about this video.
Ectopic.
Just let him.
Yeah, do you guys know what that is when we talk about ectopic pregnancies?
Ectopic pregnancies. I wanted you to talk about that, and because you talk about the care for the woman, and this is the one that they bring up the most: ectopic pregnancies, or should I say surgeries. I don't know how to do this yet, as far as what we should call it, because I don't want to use the terms that they want to use, and I want to talk about it in a way that actually separates it instead of flattening it all out together. So how should we talk about this?
So first off, ectopic pregnancy, let's define what that is. That's a pregnancy that's outside the uterus. Baby, this is a fully independent human being, fertilized egg and sperm that come together, genetically unique. Unfortunately, it's a pregnancy that's in a place that's usually not able for a mom to carry it to term because of where it is, which can be a couple places. It could be in the tubes. That's why we call it a tubal pregnancy. The tubes that take from the ovary the egg into the uterus for it to be fertilized. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly why, although it seems to be related to some complications from a whole lot of other sexual problems that women will experience. Sometimes that pregnancy will, instead of going into the uterus, will instead find a little niche in the tube. Now, these tubes are not very big. They're only a couple of millimeters wide. So as the child is there, the child begins to grow. The child is trapped in this spot, and it becomes also a danger to the mom.
So then the process then that happens, they say women have to be able to have abortions, because if they don't have the abortions, then this kind of setup will kill them.
And this is a health threat. But are we calling care of the mom in a circumstance where the child is literally in a spot that can't continue living there, where the baby is not going to survive? First off, is that the same as an abortion, which is the termination of a child in the rightful home, in the uterus, in a place where they could have existed, where they could have survived? We're talking about very, very different circumstances.
That's good.
And in most cases, when we're talking about abortion, and that's again this Hail Mary pass that they're trying to throw, or this massive exemption for a very rare circumstance, and they're trying to say, oh, we need to provide this so that women can have women's health and protection. The reality is that this is a really, first off, grievously sad moment. It's part of us, as we know as Christians, a broken world, where occasionally a baby is fertilizes and plants in a place that they shouldn't, and it's not good for baby. Baby's not going to make it. It's not good for mom. We had a mom that we took care of a couple of weeks ago, and she had one of these pregnancies, and that actually led to her having the tube rupture, which is a common problem, and she needed emergency surgery to take care of that. The child did not survive. That was hard. It was a grieving moment, because mom not only had that health event, but also lost that child in that process. And that it's one of the reasons that gynecologists are trained to take and to address surgery wise. And it's not usually an abortion. It's a removal of that tube through a major surgery. And that's also a very, very different procedure. It's not even in the same realm.
You just sent me an article. You just sent me. Listen to me. You just sent me an article this past this morning talking about how these brain dead patients got a pig heart transplant, and the pig heart transplant worked.
Well, kind of.
Well, it did better than they thought, and are
debatable.
Okay.
Did you
Whatever. We're doing crazy stuff medically. That's the point.
We're doing crazy stuff, and it's really without an ethical understanding of what is the first off. What are we doing as physicians if we don't have accountability to the Lord above at the end of our life and for what we're doing? Man, anything goes, and we're seeing that in our culture where there's this grand debate over: are we just technicians that can use any tool for whatever people want for us? Including an inconvenient pregnancy, a child that seems to be in a place that we don't want it. Can we swap parts between pigs and humans and without any debate as to the benefit of that? Yeah. Can we do that with people that we say are brain dead? And that's what this circumstance is. I encourage people to think deep on this, brain death and using people's bodies to do animal experiments. It's not all that different, honestly, than some of the things that we've been doing with embryos. They've been transplanting hair patches from animals onto these embryos and doing all sorts of transgenic craziness. Oh yeah, you got to go look. And if you go down the internet, you're going to end up vomiting, and lunch will be a forgotten moment.
So my question was, can we remove the ectopic pregnancy and insert it healthily in the womb? Is that possible?
Great question. And we don't ask this question.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. You guys can both ask the question. I've asked the question because it's a question that honestly we've taken the easy route. Well, it's not an easy route. We've taken the first answer, which is, this pregnancy is not in a good spot. We don't want mom's health to suffer from this. This is going to be, and these pregnancies don't go well. It results in babies' loss. Yeah. And oftentimes a severe complication for moms. Sometimes it was a common risk for women to die from early pregnancy. That's a really bad outcome. Obviously, we want to keep women around, and we live in this broken world where we're faced with these challenges of whose life do we save sometimes. That's a very, very different, again, than the abortion issue, which is a baby's in the right spot. And maybe the baby's inconvenient, and we just don't want to carry this pregnancy because of the challenges of it. That's just not in the same realm of characteristic. But the question, why are we not using medical technology to think about these tool pregnancies and to say, wow, we can do in vitro fertilization. We can transplant pig hearts into men. We got all these cool things. We can put robots and run them remotely on Mars. Why aren't we taking all this cool technology and thinking out how can we save these children that are tubal pregnancies and instead get them into the place where they need to be to thrive? How can we do that and save mom at the same time?
Okay, I didn't want to take your...
So you're saying we can't do that yet? Is that
can't
correct?
do that yet, but there are people that are interested in that question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're just not getting the federal funding. They're not getting the support. They're not getting the cry from people who are saying, let's protect life at all costs, and let's use our technology to do that.
Well, and too, Dr. Story, if we're being very honest, a child is worth more dead than alive right now.
There's definitely a market for that, and it'll come in a paper bag.
Okay, so I have to ask you right now, because of the ectopic pregnancy situation, a lot of news is coming around that the Black maternal mortality rate is higher than that of whites, right? And
they're bringing that stat back up again.
They're bringing that stat back up again. And so they're saying, and it is true, we do have a higher Black mortality death rate because in pregnancy. There's no doubt about that. I have my reasons for why, but I was wondering, have you been hearing this argument as well? And what is your thoughts on that subject?
Well, before I answer that, we also have a higher death rate for unborn children in the Black population than we do a birth rate.
Oh, well.
So let's be realistic.
Yeah.
There's more kids being killed than being born in that community. And in fact, that's not just Black, but it's many Hispanic communities and many of our white communities in our urban centers. That kids are not valued, and this is like just go down to the corner and take care of that problem. But let's ask the question of how can we take care of moms, Black moms included, and do a better job rather than saying, well, you have a higher risk, so let's abort your children instead. That's a perverse equation. That's a no-win, and I would say it leaves two damaged souls in the process, rather than supporting communities where their greatest asset, their greatest benefit is the future generations that we're stealing away. Why is there problems in the Black? Well, that question's been looked at a lot, but some of it comes that there are not families loving those moms and taking care of them, not helping them with their kids and taking care of them while they're getting through the pregnancy, not men that are manning up to say, I'll protect you and serve you and bless you and care for you during this pregnancy. And then not getting them to doctors who should be caring for them and providing great care. Because all of these things are things that should instead inform us on how to give the best care, not how to avoid the responsibility and instead abort the child.
Right. That's right.
Dr. Story, it's all of those. I'm sorry, Pastor, I didn't mean to interrupt you this time, but I just had to say this real quick. And my take on this has been, because I've been looking at these studies, and none of the studies that they have concerning Black women take into account the fact that they are having abortions at 3, almost 4 times the rate of white women,
and then getting pregnant and trying to have
a baby afterwards, and then so they're destroying their bodies.
And abortion is a chemical or physical surgical scraping of the inside of the uterus. It leaves a waste zone. It leaves scarring, and that's what one of the things that I mentioned earlier. We see tubal ligations or tubal pregnancies more often in women who have multiple sexual partners because of STDs. More often in women who have surgical abortions or chemical abortions. Why? Because it leaves scars. And we know those scars go much deeper than physical.
That's right.
But why are you going to have troubles with your pregnancy? Well, it probably starts with that you've had some things that should not have been done to your body.
I was thinking about what he said about family and families in the Black community, but I was also thinking about this. It seems like a very parallel thing with our elderly. We saw in all COVID. I think one of the great travesties of COVID was the lockdown of the nursing homes, and so many of our parents, our grandparents that got locked away from their families, cared for by people that don't love them and care for them in the same way as their own families do. And I think there's probably a parallel thing there where the high mortality rate, I mean, obviously they're elderly, their immune systems are more compromised and so forth, but not having the care, not having the attention of their own families that loves them. I mean, I don't think we cannot overestimate the potency of family. I mean, the reason why God so requires his people to honor marriage, honor the marriage bed, honor marriage vows, and then honor your father and mother, provide for them, protect them, and so on. It's not just because that's a good thing to do, but he says, so that it may go well with you in the land. It's the first command with the blessing. And so I think it seems like it's related that where family, where marriage is dishonored, where parents are dishonored, and there's not that generational love and care, there's going to be higher mortality rates. Because you don't have the blessing of God on you.
Yeah, that's right.
But what an opportunity for us as believers to share God's grace and the power of the body.
Yes.
To be able to extend value to people who are marginalized in our society, whether it's the single moms that find themselves alone in their pregnancy, whether it's the elderly that don't have children that love and care for them, or even like the medical world was, we don't want we want to keep you behind that plexiglass because we're doing this for your good.
Right.
That's that same pejorative idea, but also the same fatalistic idea that so pervades medicine right now. As believers, we say, no, you are made in the image of God. You are a deep value, and we're going to fight for you.
I always want to underline, too, what you just said. I just want to say it again, that if you're in a situation where you don't have family, where marriage has been broken, whatever, and so forth, the welcome to the church community is a welcome to a family.
That's right.
And so never say, but I don't have what you have. Maybe, you're blessed, you're privileged or whatever, because your marriage is intact, whatever. Okay, I am blessed, I am privileged, but the welcome is for you. The welcome is for you to come. Join the family. You can have fathers and mothers.
This is why
you can.
We talked about this before, and this hit me like a ton of bricks. I think we were on stage. This is why covenant theology is so important.
Right.
You come now to a father. You come now to brothers. You come now to cousins and
Right.
and you have all that in Christ. That's who we are. We are family.
Right.
So you really do come into a real body of people.
Right.
Dr. Story, you have
And
time. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the covenant theology that says my life for yours.
That's right.
It says that I've been given unique gifts and talents. It wasn't for me. It was for a body that I was given these things so that I could be a blessing, so that we could grow up together into maturity and glorify the head.
Doc, do you have time for one more question? Or do you have to run?
Sure, go for it.
I wanted to know, when we were talking about ectopic pregnancies, is there a doctor that would not perform the surgery to save the life of the mother? I sent you a clip of a young lady who was a doctor, and she said that she had an ectopic pregnancy, and the doctor was afraid to give her the surgery because she said the doctor didn't want to get sued or fined.
Thanks for sharing that clip with me.
Yeah.
I watched that same clip and I'm left with a couple of just responses to it. First off, the way that she described the abortion that she underwent to save herself, that she considered to be medically necessary, that was not a typical approach for taking care of a tubal pregnancy. So I'm not sure what terms that she's using, or if it really was a tubal pregnancy, because frankly, she should have incisions and not be going home that same day. It's a big deal. And so there's some language there that's used that leaves suspicion as to, is this really portraying what's going on? Secondly, we know that this is being used as a divisive issue to try and weasel back in, which is again something that we need to talk about patently, that these are real human babies, and that it's grievous if there's a tubal pregnancy. But we should also recognize that that's not an exception that explains or permits all of the abortion that's being used.
Right.
The third is I don't know of any circumstance, and I've been in medicine for more than 20 years, where tubal pregnancies are even thought of in the same terms or thought process as a pregnancy or as an abortion. It's again approached as, this is really grievous, but here we go, knowing that we don't have great options. I'd love to see us get a better option.
Yeah.
And I think we can work towards that. But I think that that falls really, really short in trying to break what is ultimately the conversation, which is these are children that need protection under a law and need better.
And I always emphasize there's a massive difference between doing what you have to do to save life, protect life as much as you possibly can, and intentionally going in to take life.
Yeah.
Those are massively different things. This is not an occasion for an exception to abortion. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, completely different thing. I really appreciate the time to visit with you guys, and thanks so much for letting me be on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's great to bring a podcast here. Yeah, we've had some good conversations lately. My wife is often on the show because she helps me stay on task and also asks me good questions and maybe knows where to go to get the best answers. But we recently have been talking about abortion. Jenny and I came close to having one ourselves before we were married. And so we're thankful to be able to share that story of God's grace and kindness and how he saved us from really, really doing something that we would have ultimately carried as an awful regret. This week, we're talking about birth control, both as to questions that should be raised, and then taking a deeper dive into the beauty of the way that God has made women's bodies, and the pause that we should have before we go messing with a pretty remarkable system of fertility and blessing. But great to have the conversation, and thanks so much for being on, guys.
Hey, Doc, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Everybody needs to go and listen to Mere Medical. Seriously, they really do. It's a great show. Dr. Stories. Every now and then.
You can get it where?
You can get it right here on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. If you haven't downloaded the app, what's wrong with you? That's right. Doc, go do your thing.
Place.
That's the only place. That's right. Yeah. Go do your thing, Doc. Go save some more lives.
Blessings. Your average podcast deserves an amazing platform, and your amazing church shouldn't have to worry when your pastor is preaching through Romans 1 or Leviticus 18 if they're going to get canceled. This is why Dropwave.io exists. Cancel culture is like walking on a thin glass bridge over the Grand Canyon with baseball cleats on.
Ooh.
Who wrote this ad? Every step could get you canceled. CrossPolitic has been working on being anti-fragile, so no matter what happens, our content can still be delivered to your TV and to your podcast. The Waterboy, that guy right there, his friend Jeremy, have been building a rowdy podcast hosting solution for rowdy Christian podcasts. CrossPolitic has enjoyed being cancel-proof and speaking freely, and Dropwave offers that to you too, and seamless onboarding for shows with large libraries and easy-to-use solutions for starting your own podcast. Dropwave will track all your show's downloads by city, state, and country, and it offers network and enterprise packages. Ooh, enterprise packages.
What's the enterprise
For solutions, it's like the Starship Enterprise.
Wow.
I don't know. For solutions like the Fight, Laugh, Feast Network. Free to speak, free to podcast, free to start your journey now at dropwave.io.
So I have a surprise for you guys. It's one that might make you vomit, but
no.
you know who Jamal Bryant is?
No.
Okay, you don't know. He's a fairly well-known black pastor in Atlanta. He's got a mega church. He took over a church. Can't remember the guy's name right now, but took over a church there. And he has a 4-minute clip where he came out basically after Roe v. Wade and just lit up the Supreme Court and everybody who supported it, and in his church, and said, we stand with the women's right to choose. Wow. And then he got the children up on the stage, the young girls, and prayed blessings over them, over their hands and feet, so they can live in this tumultuous world that exists. So I just thought
because they were born, they made it, and he could bless them because they were born.
It's kind of like 4 minutes of amazing, and I just thought that it would be great to share with the pastor and a deacon and see how y'all can. I want to see Pastor Toby just stop and just call fire down from heaven. And Gabe, if you rent your shirt, I tried to get Keith Darrell to do it last week. It didn't happen, so I'm just
he just laughed.
You know, speaking of which, I know we got to go. We're going to go backstage and we're going to talk about the Jamal Bryant clip because that's absolutely, it's insane. But, you know, I was thinking more about the Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson clip. And it came to me, if somebody was trying to destroy the sun, everybody on planet Earth should have a problem with it.
Trying to destroy the sun.
If they were like, you know what, the sun
that keeps us alive.
That keeps us alive. And it's like, we're going to destroy the sun. Everybody would be like,
we're going to send nukes to the sun.
And everybody would be like, all of our attention would turn and say, you destroy the sun, we're done.
Yeah.
Right? You're messing with something that you shouldn't mess with.
Right.
And messing with that structure will destroy the balance and the nature of society.
Now, they just want to ask questions.
And they just want to tolerate the question.
They just want to have a conversation.
Bro, my wife saw that clip and when I said, hey, I'll just tolerate if I can bring another woman to the bed, she's like, oh. Let me tell you, stuff I say on the show, I got to be careful of. It has violence attached to it. The side of the house. But, you know, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to recreate the world in such a way that it's just equivalent to destroying the sun.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're doing. We talk about allowing homosexuality. Anyway, all right, we got to go. More cross politics backstage. I just was thinking about that with Dave Rubin.
Yeah.
I got to write
you see your wife's face and her. You're like,
yeah.
Yes,
ma'am. No, I'm not. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week. Tomorrow. Beer and Psalms Wednesday. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
This is where Dave and I plan this year's company holidays.
Let's go through the list.
Easter.
Too religious.
St. Patrick's Day.
Too white. Mother's Day.
Way too cisgendered.
All of your usual holidays have been canceled this year.
But we still have Karl Marx's birthday!
Need a real reason to party? Find a new job at redballoon.work.
When tyrants take over, what's the first thing they do? Disarm. It happened in Russia, China, Germany, and most recently, Afghanistan. Why? Because disarmed people are easier to control. And over the last century and a half, American tyrants have been carrying out a slow, methodical disarmament that no one is talking about. State education. Tyrants know that education is warfare. Our rulers have a vested interest in making you totally harmless. They've got big plans and they don't want you getting in the way. Think about it. Would you rather fight an army decked out with high-powered rifles or a bunch of dinky water pistols? They know that if you can think critically, you're a threat. At New St. Andrews College, we want to graduate men and women who are dangerous. Dangerous to the world, dangerous to the principalities and powers, dangerous to spiritual wickedness in high places. Education can either arm you or disarm you. It can make you a threat or make you a useful idiot. So, where you get that education counts. Click the link to apply to New St. Andrews College today.